right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Let's get on IG. Are we live over here yet? Live. Good afternoon. How you doing? Hi, Inez. You are present. I love it. All right. She is present today and on time. I love it. You always present, girl. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Good afternoon, everyone out there. Let's get everybody on board. Today we have a great discussion because I get these questions all the time. Hey, learner. Oh, she's here too. Hello, hello. All right, you guys, get your friends on board. This question comes up every single week. So I want to see if I can clarify and hopefully help some of us out there, some of you good people out there starting these businesses, help you to figure out what business structure you should be filing. Again, like I said, people call every single week asking about this. I know it gets a little bit complicated, but I'm going to hope to clarify some of this matter with you guys today. So you guys jump in here and hit like and share on this video. Get your friends on. You guys invite some folks on here. Hey, Michonne, jumping in here. That's right. So you guys need to get this. Hit like and share on this video. Get some folks in here because this question I get. Look, I was out at an event Saturday night and somebody asked me about, the LLC and the S-Corporation and what they should do. So it's a daily question. You guys hear a lot about the LLC simply because during the pandemic, a lot of folks were, coming up with different ways to make money. So a lot of people form businesses. And a lot of times the easiest thing for them to file is an LLC because that's one of the things that they hear consistently. And it was very common and everybody wants to file an LLC. And, it just sounded really, glorified, and they didn't understand the whole process about why are they filing this LLC. And once it's done, a lot of people didn't know what else they should be doing with this LLC. So today I want to clarify for you guys the difference between the LLC, the S-Corporation, and hopefully we can determine which one you should be filing at the end. So I'll give you guys some points at the end. So stick around to the end and I will give you guys the points of which one you should be filing based on your personal situation. Okay, so let's just jump into here and okay, we got everybody on here. Hey, Karen, good afternoon. How are you? All right, good afternoon. Hey, Laverne, good afternoon, sis. How you doing? Yes. All right, let's just jump right in here, guys. LLC versus S-Corporation. So again, the whole idea is if you choose the right business structure for your business, guys, it is going to help you in the long run. It will help you to grow, help you to scale. It will help you with taxes. It will help you in so many different ways in terms of being successful based on the right business structure. Very important, okay? Very important. So what an LLC is a limited liability company. That's where it comes from, the LLC, limited liability company. And it is a business entity that is formulated by the state, depending on what state you're in. It's something that is actually registered with the state, right? Depending on what state you're in. A limited liability company is an entity that is registered with your state, depending on whatever state you're in, okay? It offers personal liability protection. So this is what most people want. They want a business that has liability protection. So if there's any debt or anything comes against that company, you are not personally sued or personally liable. So the LLC, limited liability company, once you register with your state, you get this personal liability protection. So it definitely helps you as a business to operate as an LLC as opposed to operating as a sole proprietor, which a lot of us were operating on. A lot of people have a personal business and they're operating as a sole proprietor. They have no protection as far as liability. So someone can come back after you as a personal for personal debt. And of course, you'll be responsible. Okay, so hey, Tiff Taylor, thanks for jumping in here. You are the bomb. Oh, thank you so much. All right, so yeah, so instead of operating as an independent, guys, as an individual, you want to form an LLC for the personal liability protection. All right, it's easier to establish. A lot of people do the LLC because it's easier to establish. It's a lot more simple than forming a corporation, for instance, which is what we're going to talk about. And so this is why it's easy to get into an LLC from your personal business. So this is why everyone was jumping into the LLC. Now, once that's done, you're not sure what happens after that. And of course, that's what we'll get into. So that's what the LLC does. A S corporation, on the other hand, is a corporate entity that is also filed with your state. And so depending on what state you're in, the S corporation is filed with your state. Again, it has to be filed first as a corporation. Let's get this straight. It has to be filed first as a corporation. And then what it is it's a tax election. That's why it's called an S corporation. It's a tax election to be a subchapter S corporation. And this is how it's being taxed with the federal government. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later on so you guys can see the difference between the two. So what happens is, when you form a corporation, first of all, you have to form a regular corporation, which is what they call a C corporation. That's the first thing. You can't form an S corporation. You form a corporation. And then the tax structure with the federal government, you ask to be treated as an S corporation. Okay, so that's why you have that S in front of it. And you file an S corporation tax return. So that's the difference between forming an LLC and what an S corporation is. Guys, let's get into those are the two entities we're talking about today. So let's get into the ownership structure. Right? And before I get into that, S corporation also provide the liability for you as an individual, so they cannot come after you personally for debt and liabilities of the company. So it separates you and it protects you from the liability. Both of them do, the LLC and the S corporation. So let's get into the difference between the two as far as the ownership structure. So let's get into the first point today, the ownership structure of the LLC versus the S corporation. LLC is owned by what is called members. So there's everybody that's involved in LLC are called members. Now you can have an LLC with one member, which would be it's called a single member LLC. So if it's just you in the LLC, it's considered a single member LLC. And or it could be any size. You can have any number of members in your LLC. There's no limit to the amount of people that could be in your LLC. So it can go from you as a single member to any number of folks in the LLC. So it can be as big as you want. It also can be owned by any non-citizen or non-residents can be a member in the LLC. So that is perfectly fine. It could be just owned by any number of people. So that's the difference. Now with the S corporation, on the other hand, the S corporation is limited. It can only have like 100 on what is called shareholders, right? Different from the members with LLC. They're called shareholders. You can only have like 100 shareholders in your S corporation, and they all have to be resident of the U.S. There cannot be any non-resident or non-citizen in your S corporation. Okay, so that's the difference now with the ownership structure. One has to be, you can be unlimited number in your LLC, any number of members, any number of partners. As a matter of fact, you could even have different entity as member in your LLC, and they could be citizens, non-citizen, non-residents. Now, on the other hand, again, like the S corporation, like I said, it has to be no more than 100 members. And of course, you can only have members and citizens of the in your S corporation, right? There's got to be citizens of the United States, right? Another thing between the two guys, and very important as far as the ownership is concerned. Now, an LLC, sometimes if a member passes on or decides to leave, the LLC tends to dissolve, right? In most cases, the LLC tends to dissolve, whereas an S corporation is more perpetual, meaning that it can live on. It doesn't matter who goes and who comes. It can live on because, it's a totally different structure as opposed to the LLC, because the LLC technically becomes a partnership, right? It's a partnership. So sometimes you are in business with certain partners. If one person leaves, it can create a problem for the partnership, because you may not want to be in business with anyone that they may want to bring in their space. So it sometimes dissolves a partnership when one member leaves or, happen to pass on. All right, so that is the difference between the structure, the ownership situation of the LLC versus the S corporation. All right, guys, so let's jump in here. Learn said, okay, great. All right, thank you, guys. I live on, okay, wait a minute. See, we have folks over here on the IG that is Not on. Okay. Now we're here on IG. All right, you guys ain't got some information that they ain't got, right? All right, but we'll do a major recap. We'll do a major recap over here for the folks on IG. We're talking about the S-Corp, LLC versus S-Corp. All right, second point today, management structure. The management structure, second point today. The owners of the LLC, again, are members of the LLC. They run the day-to-day operation of the business. And you can choose any number of members to run the day-to-day operation of the business. It doesn't really matter. So that's the difference with the LLC and the management structure. They can make all of the daily decisions. They do the day-to-day operation. They can make any major decision of the business. So they have the capability to do all of that. And therefore, that anyone that is a member of the LLC is in a position to make decisions on behalf of the company, right? Unlimited decisions on behalf of the company. On the other hand, the S corporation is set up totally different. An S corporation now, they have a board of directors, and then there are officers, right? They have the board of directors and their officers. The board of directors oversee the operation, and then officers run the day-to-day operations, guys. So, and then keep in mind, this is really major. There could be only one person in an S corporation is perfectly fine. And a lot of people have a problem with that because they're not sure. They feel like they have to have partners. With an S corporation, the officers are the CEO, which is Chief Executive Officer. You have the CFO, which is the Chief Financial Officer, one person. If you are the only one in your S Corp, you can be the CEO, you can be the CFO, you can be the secretary. One person can take all these positions, and you can be the owner director in your S corporation, and it's perfectly fine. Okay, so you will see, unlike the LLC, when there's a single member, you will see the difference in terms of how the taxes works when there's only one person in the LLC versus one person in your S corporation. Okay, so we got the folks on here. All right, hey, Connie, thanks for jumping in here. All right, LeBron Smith, you over there too. Thank you so much. Michelle says, when and why should one go from an LLC to an S corp? So, Michelle, we'll talk about that in the end. In going from an LLC to an S corp, I'll give you guys some points and some of the pros and cons and some of the benefits of going from running either as an S corp or an LLC, and then you will find out when you should maybe go from an LLC to an S corp. So, just give me 1 second. We'll get to that point very shortly. Thanks for asking that question, though. I'll make sure I get back to that and explain. So again, guys, number two, the management structure part of it is because the LLC, any member runs the company, and the S corporation, the board of directors oversee, and the officers run the company on the day-to-day operation. Number three. All right, so this is the favorite part. This is the part that everybody wants to know about, and this is really the key in whether or not you should have an LLC versus an S corporation. The taxes and fees. Okay, the taxes and fees. So an LLC is taxed differently. Now, this is the point I really want to drive home. If you are a single member in your LLC, you're the only person in the LLC. Your LLC is not recognized by the federal government as a separate business. You are taxed on your personal Schedule C. And this is a little difficult. A lot of people don't understand this. The federal government does not recognize a single member LLC. So you are taxed on your Schedule C personal tax return for the federal taxes as a single member LLC. On your state, whichever state you're in, now the state, if you're incorporated in that state, then you filed a business return with that state. You file an LLC return with the state. With the feds, you pay your taxes through your personal tax returns, okay? Now, if it is more than one person in the LLC, you will then file a partnership return with the federal government. So it's separate now. You'll file a partnership return with the federal government and an LLC return with your state. The federal partnership return that you file, the profit and the losses from the LLC will flow through to the individual members. And you will get that on what they call a K1. So the profit or those losses come through as a K1 to the individual members. And then you are personally reporting those taxes those profit or losses on your personal tax return. If it's a profit, you will be taxed at your individual tax rate. So some people are in different tax bracket, of course, because they have other monies coming in. Whichever tax bracket you are in is how you're going to be taxed on those profit that comes through from your LLC to every member in that LLC business. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Now with the S corporation, the S corporation is taxed. I mean, it's filed a tax return separately from your personal return with the federal government and of course with the state that it's incorporated in. So the S corporation files its own taxes with the federal government, and it also passes through the profit and the losses on a K-1 to all of the shareholders that's in the S corporation. So the profit and the losses passes through to the shareholders, and then you also report those income or losses on your personal tax return. Okay, so they both does the same thing in terms of whether you have more than one member in the LLC, you file a partnership return, the profits come through to all of the members. The S corporation file an S corporation return with the federal government, and the profit comes through to all of the members the same way. Except the LLC, if it's a single member, there is no separate tax return filed with the federal government. It's only on your Schedule C. It looks like it's just a sole proprietor as far proprietorship as far as the federal is concerned. Okay, so that's the difference between those two in terms of a tax structure. Now, most importantly, guys, and this is the key thing, everybody wants to know, okay, well, then they both look like if I have more than one member, it's a partnership, I have an S-Corp, profit and losses still come through to me, I pay taxes on my personal, so what is the difference? We're still there, right? What is the difference? Now, the difference is that you can literally save money on self-employment taxes if you're an S corporation. The reason for that is you pay yourself, you put yourself on payroll, you pay yourself a salary, a reasonable salary. You pay yourself a reasonable salary, and you can then save taxes, save on self-employment taxes on the profit that passes through to you on the K-1, right? But you have to be on payroll on getting a reasonable salary. Now, the LLC pays self-employment taxes on all of its profit. Okay, so this is where the savings comes in. The LLC will pay self-employment taxes on all of its profit when it passes through to you. And it operates similar to the Schedule C on the sole proprietor. You pay self-employment taxes on all of your profits the same way. Okay, so that's the tax difference between both of these. This LLC versus the S corporation, guys. That's the tax difference. Again, a lot of people is confused about how this works, but if I can make that clear, you guys can go back over this video, and that's the tax difference that you will encounter depending on if you're operating an LLC or a partnership, because it's more than one partner, versus being a S corporation, right? So then, guys, but there was a question earlier, Michelle. What was your question earlier? When is it a good time? When is it a good time? Okay. She said, when and why should you go from an LLC to an S-Corp? Okay. So there's some pointers here. When and why should you go from an LLC to an S-Corp? There's some questions that you wanted to ask yourself. One, you want to think about how many owners, how many people are in the business. How many people are in the business, right? That's the first thing. So, I mean, if you're the only person in there, you're a single member, you already understand that you will be taxed under Schedule C. You're going to be paying Social Security taxes on all of your profits, right? As a sole proprietor. And if it's more than one member in there, you will be taxed as a as a partnership. So you want to see how many people is in there. That will determine if it's just you. Then, of course, you might want to go to an S corporation. If it's more than one, we might go to a partnership. The other part about it is if everybody is a U.S. citizen. Now, remember that you can't have non-U.S. citizen in the S corporation. So if you have partners that are non-U.S. citizen or residents, then, of course, you can't form that. You have to form an LLC because that allows them to be partners within your business. Okay, so you need to know those things. And then the other part about it is scalability. I always ask the question is how large you want this company to be, so you can scale the business if it's an S-Corp. as opposed to it being a partnership. And it's a lot better because, again, you get on payroll and you save on self-employment taxes. You save on self-employment taxes. And just think about it. If your profit is large, 15.3% is self-employment taxes right now. That rate may change anytime. It's been that way for a very long time. You can pay a lot of taxes on self-employment taxes at 15.3% on your profits, right? If it comes through on that K1, specifically from your from your LLC, or as a sole member from your Schedule C. So guys, it all depends now on how large this business is, how many people are in it, of course, and whether everybody is a citizen or a resident. And that way you will determine what's the best entity for you to operate under. Now, here is the key. If you formed an LLC, you don't have to dissolve it to start an S corporation. You can actually elect to be treated as a corporation with the federal government, and then elect to be treated as an S corporation. Ask to change the status of your entity with the federal government, and then you can elect to be treated as S corporation. So you can take the same LLC and become an S corporation, no problem. It's just the process of 2 steps, couple of paperwork that goes in. If your status changes, you got more members involved, you want scalability, you want to create a payroll so you can be on there, and you want to save on Social Security taxes. So does that answer your question, Michonne? Does that answer your question? Hopefully it does. Hopefully it cleared it up for a lot of you guys out there. Those are some of the key takeaways on whether or not you should operate as an LLC or an S-Corp. Guys, I know this sounds like a whole lot. Come back over here and listen to this video. I'm going to recap this real quick for you guys. What we're talking about here today again. Let's see. All right, trying to see if there's a question over here, Tia. Much success to you always. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. And I hope all this information to help you guys, and you can pass it on to some other folks. All right, so let me recap the 3 points today on the LLC versus the corporation. Again, they both are a legal entity, a very great business structure, again, as opposed to operating as a self-employed individual. LLC is generally easier to form. Fees are a lot less expensive. And so a lot of people form the LLC. So the difference is that they are both they're both liability protected. So you are not personally liable for any business debt. So that's the first point. The ownership is a point that we want to make here, is that any number of people can be in the LLC. Only 100 members, only 100 board directors and officers, shareholders are allowed in S corporation. So there's no limit to how many members you want to have in your LLC. So that's okay. You can have as many as you want. Number 2, management structure. Everybody in the LLC, every member in LLC can run the operation of the business, whereas in an S corporation, officers run the businesses, and the board of directors oversee that stuff. Every year they usually vote and determine who are officers, who are the board of directors. So the board of directors oversee, the officers do the day-to-day operation and make all of the business decisions. Okay, so that's the way the management structure is set up. Taxes and fees, number 3. Taxes and fees, right? So single member LLC, tax as a sole proprietor on your personal Schedule C. More than one person in your LLC, it's a partnership return that is done, and the income, the profit or the losses come through to the individual tax return, and you pay self-employment taxes on all of the profit that comes to you from the LLC, right? The S corporation, on the other hand, the profit and losses passes through to the shareholders, but if you're on a reasonable payroll, you don't pay self-employment taxes on the profit that passes through to you. So that is what's major about the difference between both of those, okay? So again, guys, let's see. I hope I made that very clear. Again, you want to determine which structure based on several things. You want to determine how many people is involved in your business, whether it's single member LLC or whether it's going to be more than one and operate as a partnership. And of course, you will pay more self-employment taxes because you're not on a payroll. You can't be on a payroll. However, if it's an S corporation, you put yourself in payroll. One person could be everything. It's still a separate tax return, and you can be the CEO, the CFO, the secretary, and the whole gambit, the board of directors, and your S corporation, and it's perfectly fine. And you can save a lot of money on Social Security taxes. Okay, so I hope that was clear to most of you guys out there. Again, like I said, put your questions at the bottom here. We'll come back through, hit like and share in this video. And we are here at PROBY'S Tax and Accounting to assist you in this process. I get questions every single week. I've gotten you know, a lot of new businesses that have formed in the last, say, 6 months, or, you know, all in 2021 and a lot in 2020 because of, you know, the pandemic. A lot of people had already had businesses they were involved in, and they wanted to just make them more legal in terms of, you know, liability protection and getting the best tax savings that they can on their business structure. So that's one of the reasons why we're having these discussions, so you guys can really figure this out. And you can give us a call here at PROBY'S Tax and Accounting at 323-290-9034. If you need any further clarification, you guys can book a consultation. I'll be willing to help you out, and or visit our website at probiztax.com. And we want to assist you guys because your success is our business. I want you guys to all stay, get in business, get in the right business structure, save on taxes so you can save more money, so you can invest and become more successful. So one of the other things I want to say regarding taxes, you can also put aside more money in a pension fund. If you have an S corporation, you can put aside more money in that, which is even more helpful as far as tax is concerned. So it's a lot of excellent benefit to it, guys. I know this is a little bit confusing, but we can further clarify it if you know, give us your questions and concerns at the bottom of the screen. So with that said, I think that's it for today, and we'll be back on Thursday. Thursday, what are we talking about? Thank you. All right, I'm passing you. Let's see, what does everybody say here? All right. Okay, I'm passing, yeah. My smart today, pass the information on. That's right, pass the information on. So, and Thursday we'll be back, and we're going to talk about different ways you can save on, what are we talking about on Thursday? 3 ways you can meet your savings goals. Oh yeah, it's always about setting some money aside. So that's what we'll talk about on Thursday, guys. So make sure that you come back here at 1 p.m., share this video, invite all your friends to come in so they can get this information. It's free. You don't have to worry about it. Just, you know, take it and use it. Okay, so with that said, guys, I'm going to be out of here. And before I leave, I want to say happy Independence to Belize. Today, the 21st. And so, you know, great independence to Belize. All right. So, you guys, I will get up out of here. I want you guys to have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Tuesday, I'm resting this week. Wonderful rest of your Tuesday. And with that said, I want you guys to take care of each other and take care of yourself.